And we are live. Welcome to yet another episode of this YouTube series where we, as Luna, interview 100 sales professionals to help us shape the future of Luna.ai. As you know, we're trying to build the ultimate SaaS tool, and therefore we're speaking to all these people to learn as much as we can about their day-to-day and how we can help them most efficiently and most effectively. I'm Nelemans. I'm one of the founders of Luna.ai, and I'm today joined by Klotz. Can I say Gabriela or Gigi?
Gigi's fine.
Gigi. Okay, that's perfect. Today I'm joined by Gigi. Before I give her the floor to introduce herself, I just wanted to share a quick word on Luna. So for the new people that are listening to this series, Luna is an all-in-one B2B sales platform where we're using AI to find your perfect leads, to scrape the entire internet to find every piece of information there's to find, and then use that to write mind-blowing sales emails. And as you know, we want to do much more than that. So that's why I can't wait to get started and dive in together with Gigi today. But before we do that, Gigi, could you briefly introduce yourself to the viewers?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephen. My name is Gigi Klotz. I am the founding account executive at Apollo Art. We seek to bring digital art and digitized fine art to any display out there. And I've been working in tech sales for about 3 years after having not gone to school for that, which I'll get more into later.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice. I was checking out Apollo Art before. It was a pretty cool proposition that you have. If I understand it correctly, you're a marketplace for digital art, but also how do you say that? Give people the screens and the digital displays where they can display the art, right? If I understand correctly.
Yes and no. So we don't provide the displays. We provide the software and the little computer box that connects to any display to create that installation. In a previous iteration of the company, they had thought about doing displays and basically decided that they wanted to put more value into the actual art as opposed to the hardware component. And so they've dedicated a lot of resources to expanding our network of artists and to refining the software so that users, whether they're residential users or commercial users of the platform, are able to create their own curations on our mobile app and work with our curator to, if they're perhaps a commercial brand, create curations that align with their brand standards.
Very cool. Very cool. And as a marketplace, there's always a question for supply and for demand. And as an AE, what are you focused on mostly? On the supply side, demand side, or equally both?
I think it's a little bit of both. For me right now, it's been just about 2 months since I've joined the company, and it's been a lot about ironing out the process. Right now, we've got a really small team. I think there's maybe 12 of us. And before I joined, everybody played a part in selling Apollo. And so something that I've spent time doing is sitting down with every key internal stakeholder to understand what their role is in the sales process, what I need to be asking of them and what I need to be getting from them, and how we can accelerate the sales motion by streamlining it all through me, as opposed to having everybody, step out of their ordinary playing field and have to divert time and dedicate time to the sales process. I'm like, let me take care of that. But I just want to know, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand that. But that was one of the things you had prepped me with, is saying okay, how are you dealing with the pressure of delivering results? And I think the first thing is that in order to understand what those results should be, you have to understand expectations. And that comes from talking with leadership. For me, expectation is quota. So I have to work backwards to understand the volume of work required to actually achieve that. And the way that I've done that is by making myself a sales Bible. I've got this massive spreadsheet that has tabs that go through questions that I've heard being asked and how I've tried to answer them, questions that I want to be asking during discovery calls, the sales stages and what happens during each sales stage, what qualifies them for moving forward or what disqualifies them from moving forward. And the easiest way I've gone about doing that is by utilizing call transcriptions, We don't utilize Gong yet. We're not big enough to be investing in a massive tech stack. And I've used Gong before, which is great. But right now I've just been using transcriptions from Google Meet, which is our platform that we use, or from Crisp AI, to go back and learn what I heard in every call, whether they're internal or external.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. That's a lot of value already right there. I think one of the most interesting things about this conversation is that most of the conversations we've had so far were with people that were like 1 or 2 years in, who were reflecting back at their time, like, okay, in the first few months I did this and this and this, and it worked really well for like A reason or B reason or something like that. And you're actually right in the middle of it. You're right there, just like many of the people that are listening to this podcast. And you're currently exploring, you're in that phase where you're trying to get as much information from leadership. So that's very cool. Maybe one question to dive in, because there was a lot of value to unpack there already. So you mentioned the pressure to perform. Is that something that you experience as well, from like being a new AE in the team and basically having to take full responsibility for the sales process?
Of course. I think that any salesperson is going to feel pressured to fulfill their quota. And for me, pressure is very motivating. It's something that is put in front of me as the expectation of quota, but also for myself, I do put pressure on myself to perform. And the thing that I think is important to note when it does come to the pressure aspect of being a salesperson is learning that you're not going to be able to convert every opportunity. And if the pressure is on for you to convert every opportunity versus creating and converting opportunities that actually have legs, there is a disconnect there. And that it's important, especially being this early in the process, to be able to communicate that the quantity is important, but the quality is even more important, because that's just going to inform us as we continue to scale.
Exactly. You have a limited number of hours in the week, and you need to spend those hours as effectively as possible.
Yes.
That's yeah, interesting. That's a very interesting one. Cool. And if you take a look at the way that you're working internally, you mentioned that you're speaking to all of the stakeholders, and you mentioned that you were setting up like the sales Bible, like that. Is that like a document that you use for yourself, like internally, or is that something that you share as well with the rest of them to also basically communicate and show what you're doing and the progress that you're making?
Big time. I have used that. It's something that I own, but I share because I think that it's important to have visibility into the sales process. We're a distributed team, meaning that obviously we don't have an office, and we do, but not everybody lives in Chicago where I'm based. And so sharing that document internally creates visibility and also makes people ask questions. I've had people say, hey, what does this mean? Actually, here's how we've done it. And that has unearthed discrepancies in internal processes from before I stepped in, which has been really helpful. So it's
100%.
It's both something that I use for myself and something that I share. It's also a good way for me to check in with leadership to say, here's what I'm doing to build this process as we're trying to scale.
Gotcha. It's also like a cool extra feedback loop. Like you can have an hour-long conversation with someone, and then like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna work from here. But filtering through all of that information, especially when it's a lot of stuff happening like before you joined, and people were just like summing it up from memory, that it will not be as comprehensive as it as it probably could be. So just an extra feedback loop where you're like, okay, basically this is what we talked about, right? And they're like,
Right.
Mostly yes, but that probably also helps a lot.
Right. And for me, if it's not written down, I don't remember it. So I'm not afraid to have extensive pages on this spreadsheet because it can always be refined. But if it doesn't exist in there, it doesn't exist in my brain. And so I've just kind of used it as a place for all sales knowledge to exist since I've started.
Very cool. Where did you learn how to do this? Is this the first time you approach it like this, or did you have this experience before?
So I started as an SDR 2.5 years ago, a founding SDR on a team of other SDRs who hadn't been SDRs before. None of us had sales experience, and we were being
That's
led by
pretty rough.
no, honestly, it can be viewed as rough, but it was really exciting because all of us came with different perspectives of how to achieve our goals and different energy about how to approach every day. And so it was actually phenomenal because I said to them, guys, I need to put this information into one place. Like, we are, again, a distributed team, 3 totally different perspectives. And that turned into making a sales playbook. I didn't even know the term sales playbook existed when I had started that. But I mean, we were making a matrix of how to handle objections on cold calls and talking about how we're going to blueprint accounts. Here's a template for this, and here's a template for that. And so truly, it's something that I've done in every role that I've been at. And it's just been a place for me to centralize the knowledge that I think I need to actually achieve my goals. In previous roles like that, it had literally turned into an entire SDR playbook, which was really cool because I didn't even, like I said, I had no idea that concept even existed, because we came in and we had training and it was relatively limited. We had good support, but we still needed a way to get everything organized. So it's something that I've just carried with me and that I'll continue to do, because the more that I utilize it and the farther I get in the sales process too, like starting as an SDR versus being an AE, there's an entire different set of information on that side that you need to understand. So being able to, maybe down the line, have that entire playbook for the entire sales motion is something that would be cool to create.
I can totally understand it, and it probably also helps a lot when you're going to be expanding a team and you have new people. Maybe you're going to hire more AEs or like a couple of SDRs to help you with lead generation or something like that. And if you have everything documented and everything well prepared, then you can just say, "Hey, awesome to see you joined your first week. Just read through this entire Bible and you'll get the hang of it."
I've done that, and I've said, read through it and ask questions, comment on the cell, ask your question, and then let's get together and talk about it. Because that way if I find out different information that needs to be included so that somebody actually understands the process, their responsibilities, our expectations, that's great. And I want to make sure that that's included in that information.
I can imagine. That's also an interesting one. You said cell. Does that mean it's a spreadsheet and not like a Word document or something like that?
Yeah, it's all in a spreadsheet.
Nice.
I joke that my life is operated in spreadsheets. I use them all the time in my personal life. I did not get a finance degree. I didn't even get a business degree. And yet spreadsheets have served me through a lot. So I will continue to use them.
I can imagine. We can probably have like an entire different conversation, entire different podcast about like the shared love for spreadsheets. I use it for everything as well.
And and when I want to figure out how to do something and I don't know how to make a formula happen, that's when I pop over to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, in this cell, I want to make sure that I grab X, Y, and Z. Like, help me write the formula." And if it doesn't give me the right answer, I'm like, "Okay, it gave me that, but actually I want this. Fix it." And then it tells me what to try again. And so that's a great example of AI helping me do my job better, but not doing my job for me, because it's helping me learn knowledge that will compound, as opposed to just generating it and me saying, "Yeah, okay, I think we're done. That's good." So I love to use ChatGPT in that sense of iterating on the foundation that I've built. One of the ways that I do that is with discovery questions. I've got a list of questions. I don't necessarily want to interrogate a prospect on a call ever. So it's important for me to have different iterations of how to ask all these questions. And sometimes I can get nasty writer's block trying to figure out what those should be. So I'll pop over to ChatGPT and I'll say, "Hey, these are the questions that I'm asking. I'm talking to this kind of person. Help me come up with some other ideas that are either same iterations of the same question or expanding on these to other questions that might be beneficial as I go through the sales process. And those questions, I'll get put right back into the sales Bible.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And probably like a link to the conversation as well, so that people can read through like the context and stuff like that. And then you have like the total package. You don't have to do anything anymore in terms of onboarding. People can just read through the entire process of how it came to be. That's so cool. That's also a nice bridge to the next topic. You touched upon AI, upon ChatGPT. Are you guys using AI for other parts of the sales funnel, sales process as well?
Not yet. We're a really small company and we're pretty scrappy with resources. And so it's kind of been on me to figure out what tools we need and or how I can utilize them without paying for them at this point. We're just not in the place to invest yet. However, that's the beauty of a lot of these tools like Luna. They're free. You get the opportunity to experience them for free. And sure, there might be, the opportunity to purchase a more comprehensive rendition of that. But, a great example, and this is something that is not necessarily hugely impactful on the sales process, but I really love the Google Chrome extension, Crisp AI. It filters out all your background noise. It transcribes your calls for you, so you don't necessarily have to add a note taker into the call. And that way I can have a discovery call in a coffee shop. And they don't know that I'm in a coffee shop, but I do because I love to work in coffee shops. And I'm also capturing all of the notes. And then I can go back and look at my notes. Like that's a great example of that.
That's perfect.
I've also used tools in previous roles like Lavender that have been really awesome in helping me refine my emails. I'm great at saying a lot. I'm not great at paring it down, but keeping the same message. And Lavender does an amazing job of helping me figure out how to say what I want to say in fewer words. Another example of tech that I've previously used that once we scale will be really impactful would be some type of auto dialer. I've used Orem before, and the automatic dispositioning. It is really, you don't think about how much time that takes you, but for it to capture that and help you move on from call to call, like the clicking, you'd think that it doesn't take a lot of time to click through your calls. But 2 roles ago, I was a sales development team lead where I had started that SDR playbook. I got promoted into that role. We figured out that calling was our best way to reach our prospects. We wanted to figure out a way to get more calls made. We looked into a parallel dialer, and suddenly our meeting rates shot up by 100% because we were simply able to get on the phone more. So another example of AI tools being there to optimize your time, not to take your job over. I can understand why there's like hesitation and frustration and maybe even fear over utilizing AI because we all want to have an income, right? We all want to have a paycheck. But if I can use it to be a better version of myself as a salesperson, why wouldn't I give it a try?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot, and I think that's also the direction it's moving into. Like AI can do a lot of stuff for you when given the correct instructions, but that's also like the downfall of AI, or like the part where it gets dangerous is if you give it the wrong input. That's basically also what you mentioned, right? With the Excel example with ChatGPT. If you give the wrong instructions, it will give you the wrong output, and it's never going to be able to figure it out on its own. Right now, it may be changed in the future, but as of this moment, the better you are at providing instructions and input for AI, the better the outcome will be, and therefore you will like be able to 10x yourself and make sure that you that's a perfect example, shooting up your meeting rates by 100%. That's probably a pretty cool stat to wave around in the leadership team, like look what we did.
Yeah, and it's funny too, you had asked in our prep about multi-channel outreach and how that can be really helpful. And I think it can, but you have to understand where your prospects live. And so if your prospects aren't going to be all over LinkedIn, they're not necessarily VPs of sales or founders or chief revenue officers. For example, I was selling into compliance within financial services. There was a very small fraction of people that were spending time on LinkedIn. So I'm just not going to devote my resources to that. I'm going to devote my resources to where I know I can get a hold of them, the phone. And that
100%.
led to the parallel dialer led to the increase in meetings. So it's just an understanding of, the more you understand where your prospects live, the more you can better understand what tools you should implement to optimize your process.
Exactly. Is it the same for Apollo Art, where you see that it's best to reach your prospects over the phone, or are you using a multi-channel approach right now?
Interestingly enough, this has been the first role that I've been in where the majority of our meetings are booked over email.
Okay. Very cool.
We've got a phenomenal BDR who's been just hammering out emails every day. And I've been really adamant. I'm like, hey, we should like spend more time cold calling. Let's put up some cold call blocks on our calendars. And, I'm not one to say, all right, well, we can wait, just because I know that I'm really good at that. But this is what's working right now. So let's put time and resources into figuring out how to make our emails even better. Interestingly enough, something that I'm trying to figure out how to refine or better understand, and I think this could be where Luna could be helpful, is understanding open rates that are actual open rates and not firewalls or bots, and reply rates that are actually positive reply rates and not just out of office notifications or unsubscribe notifications. Because if those are the stats that you're looking at, open rates and reply rates, and you don't have anything in there to tell you if it was an actual human opening it or if you actually got a positive reply, then those rates are totally irrelevant. So I don't know, maybe that's where I need to look into Luna.
It's an interesting one. Like the first one, the open rates, that's a tough one, because basically how open tracking works is you send like an image of one pixel, and that pixel gets downloaded while the email gets opened from the server, which basically pings the server, okay, now the email gets opened. But who views the email or who opens the email, that's something that you cannot track what the origin is of the ping, right? And that's a challenging one. The other one, basically what we do with Luna is we do a sentiment analysis on all incoming replies. So we see there's a reply,
Awesome.
but if it says, so we train our models on like out of offices and negative responses and stuff like that. So we basically generate a chance of a probability of what the buying intent will be. Is the buying intent low, medium, high, or very high? And if it's high or very high, then it will be a positive reply. If it's low or medium, then we're like, okay, then maybe we still need to do something with it. And and Luna can also say, okay, this still needs a reply or not. Maybe like you can get a reply like, yeah, sure, send some information. We just started working with a competitor, but always happy to learn more, which is pretty low buying intent, but yeah, it can still grow into something. So that is basically how we do it.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. We've come at the end of this interview already. It was flying by really, really fast. So thank you so much for sharing all of these interesting insights. As you know, with every guest that I have on the show, I wanted to ask them one question, because in the end, we're also trying to learn as much as we can, not only to share this information with the people watching this series, but also for ourselves and our internal product team. If there was one thing that you would be able to like build, change, or basically if you take a look at your current tech stack or your current way of working, resources or time or money is not a constraint, what would be the one feature that you're like, oh man, that would make my life so much more awesome? I would again increase my meeting booked rate by 100% if we were to have this.
For me, because I have a BDR team, I am more focused on optimizing the later side of the sales process. And so, I would probably want to see something that could coach me in real time or retrospectively after calls. Um, judge what I was saying and how it was. If they were able to give a sentiment to the response, and perhaps like maybe during a pricing call, give sentiment to the response and then go back to me and say, you did this, your response was, the response you received was this. Next time, try options A, B, C, or D. That would be really cool. And if it could happen in real time, like that would obviously be kind of insane. But yeah,
that is
I
very
know
cool.
that there's a lot of like email coaches out there. And maybe this does exist. Maybe I know sales coaching tools exist, but I think a lot of it that is on the market is for the earlier half of the sales motion, and that there's a lot of opportunity to utilize AI to optimize the back half of the sale.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Maybe one interesting question about because I love this. This is really interesting. I think there's many companies. Now, let me just ask like this: if you were to have a pricing call and you were having a conversation, and you would see notifications pop up from like real-time coaching or whatever we're going to call it, would you be able to read those messages in the middle of a conversation?
That's a great question. I think I'm a decent multitasker. There would have to be a way to do it succinctly. Not that you're reading a paragraph, but
like keywords or something, like very direct instructions.
Keywords, like try these keywords or something like that. That would be, quicker, less of an attention shift all the way, but still informing you. I don't know. I feel like
like
would take
objection
me away.
like,
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is not seem focused during that kind of call. And if I'm over here reading my screen, right? So that's a really, what? Maybe I'm totally wrong, but keywords could be helpful.
No, it's
keywords could be helpful.
I think it could be helpful 100%. I'm just thinking of like, but this is a good one. If you do it in keywords, you just like you get a sort of a direct message from the bot or something like, hey, objection found, price too high, blah blah, and then potential solution, and then like in 3 or 4 words, like try this, and basically give you enough to spark your imagination. And it doesn't have to solve anything for you, right? It has to push you in the right direction.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I was trying to convey there too. It's not solving the problem for you, but it's pushing you in the right direction. It's helping you decide how you want to guide the conversation further. So
exactly. Amazing. That would be a very cool addition to the platform. I'll talk to our tech team about it and see how fast we can do something like this. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Is there anything that you would like to share with the viewers about yourself, or like about Apollo Art, or anything? Sure. Where can they find you?
A little bit about me. I'm a classically trained opera singer turned saleswoman, and my background in music has really informed my career in sales. I have always said I'm still singing professionally, but singing and sales are the same thing. You're constantly practicing. You're constantly learning different languages, different prospects, different problems. You're constantly being coached by your team, by your boss, by your peers. You're constantly performing, getting on demos, being able to show the platform and convey it in a way with conviction. And you're always refining. You're always refining. So my skills as a performer have served me really well in sales. And I think that if anything, I'd like to be inspiration for somebody who doesn't have the traditional background, who I think I'm doing today. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in my career so far. It's blossomed into something that I never could have imagined. And the bottom line is, take the leap, give it a try. And if it's not for you, that's fine. But sales can be a transformative thing in somebody's life for a number of reasons. And I think that what I've been able to carry with me from my my conservatory training has been really powerful. The other thing I'll say is that you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Gabriela Klotz on LinkedIn. You can also type in Gigi Klotz. Both will come up. I like to post a lot about, sales tactics, things that I've learned. And a lot of it is just what I've seen on LinkedIn, how I've utilized it myself, and then repurposing it in that sense. But the other thing that I like to talk about too is the impact of what your mental health is with sales and the importance of maintaining strong mental health. I think that sales can be very high stakes, very taxing emotionally. And I think that the more we have a conversation about the importance of mental health in careers, not even just in sales, the better everyone will be in the future, because everyone will acknowledge it as something very meaningful. So please do find me on LinkedIn. I am always on there somehow, and I love to engage with people on LinkedIn. That's how this conversation came to be. So I'm always there. And if you're looking for a digital art solution, digital fine art solution for your home, for your office, for your, I don't even know, for any space, really, any wall that there could be a display, there could be Apollo art. So I'm always here for that too.
That's amazing. Wow, that was so much value, and I love the opera singer versus. It's basically continuous improvement, right? It's not a job where you do like the same trick all over again.
Yes,
that's actually interesting. Like as a professional athlete or a professional singer or professional anything, you're working day in day out to get better and better and better. And if you apply that mentality to sales as well, then then you'll get there for sure.
It's never about the finished product.
That is so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really awesome. So everyone listening, please follow Gigi on LinkedIn and engage with her, especially on mental health, because that's an important one as well, as sales and especially SDR roles has at one of the highest turnovers in like the entire professional industry. So I think there's a lot to uncover and a lot to unpack there. But again, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your experiences and everything with us and with the people that are watching. To everyone that was watching, thank you very much for tuning in again, and hope to see you again at the next episode.
Thanks so much, Stephen.